In the modern world, just as in the ancient, good looks have always been considered an advantage. Unless we are visually impaired, we are programmed to seek relationships with people we like the look of. Yet, paradoxically, love is described as blind. Throughout our race's history, physical attraction has caused endless problems. Think of Samson and Delilah. Its flip side might actually be our ingrained prejudice against those who look a bit different from us. A truly unpleasant habit. Physical appearance spells trouble in this morning's extract from the long book of Genesis. Another problematic episode in the life of Jacob. His uncle Laban, the Aramean, has 2 daughters. Jacob encounters the younger one, Rachel, by a well on his first arrival, and he's instantly smitten by her beauty. Her older sister is not such a looker. Negotiating then with the girl's father, Jacob reckons they've reached an agreement on 7 years' labour in return for Rachel's hand in marriage. But Laban has other ideas. His older girl, Leah, is, less attractive. How will he find her a husband, except by trickery? Laban's sister's boy, Jacob, has jumped the queue in his family to become his father's principal heir, also by chicanery. But now it's his naivety, or perhaps his more trusting and decent nature, that enables his uncle to outsmart him. Poor Leah. She will be his buy one, get one free bride. While most weddings are happy events, this cunningly contrived union turns into anything but. It sounds stupid, I know. How did Jacob ever come to marry the wrong sister? Well, the first thing you need to know is that I honestly thought I was the right one, that he'd meant to marry me. It was only when he stormed off out to confront Pa that I realised there was a problem at all. A thoughtful, savvy, intelligent, God-fearing man like him. Turned out he'd cheerfully agreed to work for Pa for 7 years, 7, as payment for my sister's hand. Daughters are never party to the arrangements, you know. I'd hardly ever set eyes on Jacob. Pa kept him busy, not hanging round at home. Getting a wife, well, it was just a business deal. He might just as well have been buying a goat or a camel. The look on his face, you'd have thought he had. I was the other one, you know. Eldest daughter, but not for public consumption. Darling Rachel. She was the pretty one, graceful as a gazelle, with the perfect everything in all the right places. Well, I looked like I'd been assembled from a bag of leftovers. Looked like Pa, if I'm honest. She was the one that he wheeled out to serve guests, while I was toiling over a hot stove. She was an asset. I was an embarrassment. I didn't know why our cousin had come to Aram at the beginning, such a long way from his folks. I got my first clue that fateful morning. Maybe fathers are less strict down in Canaan. Jake, you see, had an elder brother. Well, only just. They're twins. Somehow it seems he'd managed to shove him into second place. When I heard him and Pa yelling at each other outside, Pa said, "We don't go in for that sort of caper here. The oldest always marries first, end of." You might imagine I'd agreed you could wed Rachel, but you didn't read the small print, my boy. I knew then he wouldn't budge. Expect he was thrilled. 7 years' labour, and now I was someone else's problem. Bargain. The honeymoon was over. I knew. Jacob didn't want me. He'd just found out he'd given 7 precious years of his life for the other one. the one he'd only accept after a proper skinful, in a pitch-dark tent. He was furious, beyond outraged. I was devastated. All my joy cancelled in an instant. But he was my husband now, my master, my owner. What on earth was I to do? Well, there was one little chink of light in my miserable existence. My children. Might not look much, but I turned out to be rather good at producing those sons Jacob believed God had promised him. Reuben, he was the oldest, then Simeon and Levi and Judah, later Issachar and Zebulun, and last of all my little Dinah. They were my consolation, the tribe. Surely, as Jacob treasured his family, he could love their mother, no? It seemed not. He still held an oil lamp for Princess Rachel. Married her too, just a week later. Perfect. I think secretly deep down he felt that God had let him down. After all those years working for my calculating snake of a father, far from his real home down south. It would always be her, and first wife or not, I was always the other one. After his unnerving vision of the stairway to heaven en route to Aram, and the promises God had made about his future, Jacob must have felt that he'd climbed a ladder only to slide down a snake. What a dubious blessing. Leah was not the trophy wife he'd given so much for, but perhaps this experience was another Discovery Channel. Walking with God doesn't always mean getting your own way. Yet again, though, God takes pity on the also-ran, the plain Jane giveaway girl. He looks upon her heart and compensates her with offspring to offset Jacob's indifference and sister Rachel's enmity. While Jacob believed that his eyes had been opened at Bethel, he still couldn't see Leah through the divine lens. Seems he'd forgotten how God had promoted him. Stubbornly marrying Rachel as well will bring double trouble, echoing the old rivalry between himself and Esau, his brother. But going home will soon be reminding him that God loves the other ones too.